Hi there, let's talk sports fans. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Nothing But Sports, which is the show what we do exactly that, talk nothing but sports. And my co-pilot on this journey is Bo from Football Talk with Bo. Thanks for joining me today.
Of course. Thanks for having me. Always great to be with you.
No problem at all. I know you've had a hectic day already today in speaking with you, so let's hope we have a chilled episode. Lots of fun had. I enjoyed last week, so been looking forward to this week. But
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now these segments are always the best part of the day because anytime you're not on camera, it's normal life again, right?
yeah, but it definitely is. I mean, that being said, so having a chilled, fun episode. The first topic is obviously a serious matter. Any NBA fan and probably casual fan can tell you the biggest story around the league at the moment is the Ja Morant situation, and I don't know how you feel about this. I caught a bit of your shorts. I'm guessing similar to me, but I hate this to be honest with you. And there's no doubt in Jar's talent, but
Yeah.
I thought the first incident was not, call it a bonehead move, doesn't do it justice. This is a young man. What playing in NBA is a privilege, in my opinion, and I do understand that he maybe comes from a rough neighborhood, but to me, that's a reason why take advantage of this opportunity. So I thought when they did the suspension and it come back at 8 games, I thought, what
Mhm.
the heck is that? I mean, in a world where different sport, but you had Kelvin Ridley banned the season
Mhm.
for betting on games, and that is serious. I thought he deserved that. But that being said, if you go in a world where that, and as I saw on Breakfast Telly this morning, the Commissioner Adam Silver wants to be known as a league will take social issues very seriously.
Mhm.
I thought it was an insult given the 8 games for this to happen again. Um, they've got to go hard, in my opinion, and I know Jars released a statement this morning. One, I don't believe he writ that, but to me, given that's the second, it's just the same thing he said the first time. If he was sorry, this wouldn't have come up. And if he was sorry, why did it take him 3 or 4 days to
Mhm.
release the statement? So that makes me want them to go harder. Really, I don't know how you feel about this, Bo. We might feel differently, which is okay. What's your feelings on the incident?
Yeah. So I mean, obviously, when he got caught the first time, bonehead move, young kid. Um, it's not like it's illegal to own a firearm.
No.
So I feel like the league probably took him at his word that he was sorry, wasn't going to do it again. And I feel like that's probably why they were a little more lenient on it. Um, that being said, this time around, absolutely, they're going to go harder. It's a scenario of protecting the brand, right? And it's like I said in one of my shorts, because there's been argument that there's Amendment rights, and nobody's taking those away. This is a private company. They have a gun policy, and that is you can't have it in league facilities and non-league property and stuff like that. But it also has verbiage in their bylaws that you won't do things that tarnish the brand, and that's what this is really directed towards. So I, 100%, I think this is going to be a situation where he misses probably half a season. I think they really need to drive the point home of, hey, this is not you know, behavior that's acceptable for the league. And again, they're not trying to take his guns away. He can have guns. They don't care if he has them. He needs to be responsible with them. He needs to be an ambassador of good gun control if he's gonna have them and be in the public eye with it. It's it's unfortunate, but he's had, outside of that first, flashing the gun on Instagram Live, he's had some other off the court issues along the way. And so I think at this point they're starting, none of them were huge deals independently, but as you start to bring all of them together, it becomes kind of concerning. And this is definitely a spot where the league steps in and probably delivers a harsher, punishment. But, I feel like he also needs to have some people that are surrounding him in his circle that, can help tell him, hey, man, protect your own brand of, of Ja, right? I mean, at the end of the day, if this gets confirmed that it was a firearm, obviously there's some speculation that maybe it wasn't, but if it gets confirmed, all of a sudden he's not looking at just missing time on the court and potentially hefty fines from the NBA. Now you're starting to look at losing sponsorship from Nike and Powerade and all these companies, and all of a sudden you're looking at doing something kind of dumb and reckless, costing you hundreds of millions of dollars. And it's one of those, he needs some people in his inner circle to help protect him from himself, right? I mean, he's a young kid. There's dumb things that you're going to do. I remember doing lots of dumb stuff when I was young as well. But you got to have people in your life that are like, hey man, what you're doing right here is going to mess your life up long term. Like, even if you want to do it, maybe get with those friends that don't put it on Instagram Live. I mean, if you are going to carry it and do dumb stuff, maybe don't take video of it. I mean, there's definitely benefit to me being in my 40s, and a lot of the dumb things I did as a kid, there wasn't cameras around. But all of these guys have grown up in an era where social media and cameras are a thing. So they got to be mindful of the fact that if this gets out, this is not going to go well. And especially if you've been fined and suspended before, you do it again, that it's not going to be better, right? So yeah, I'm with you. It's a bad look overall, and not only does it kind of hurt the NBA brand, but it definitely hurts Ja's brand.
I agree. I mean, these so-called friends really aren't looking out for them. To be honest with you, they're not even looking out for themselves. Because if you accept these friends are, let's be honest, at the very least, dependent on them financially,
Mhm.
surely from your own self-interest, the least you owe it to yourself and Jar by extension.
Mhm.
Don't film it on your phone. Certainly don't go live on Instagram just because will cost him. What it tells me is the people who he's surrounding himself with not only aren't looking out for his best interests, as long as they're living off the money he's got now, they don't care about tomorrow, and that's not the guy you want to surround yourself with. You want to surround yourself with guys, what, say you're doing a drunken mistake, saying, look, you've got a lot to lose. Maybe not the best idea. Case in point, most of our American viewers won't know this incident, but a couple of months back there was a quite big boxing match, and one of the biggest soccer players who played for England, some guys started on him and his mum, and
Mhm.
one of his friends physically grabbed the soccer player away and confronted the guys themselves. That's the sort of thing that
Yes.
they should be doing because they recognise, no, he's got more to lose than I can. So even in that case, he probably would have had right on his side the media. opinion that don't matter. So that's the sort of guy Jar should be surrounding himself with. And these incidents hurt me because he's a player, but he's just always been fun to watch. So it's always a shame. And um, the biggest concern is you've had these over the course of less than 8 weeks. It's a long off season in the NBA. How many will we have? So, whereas it's looking like it seems like the consensus of half a season, that
Mhm.
could be a season if there's probably one more incident, and I think there could be two. To be honest with you, because just last week, what did he lose? Like 34 million
Yep.
for not being on the all NBA teams. So that wasn't enough to shock him. So it just seems like he's self-destruction at the moment.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think
It does
we
seem
ain't
like some
seen the
self-sabotage.
last of it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, you always hate to see that out of a professional athlete who has worked hard to get to where they finally, dreamed of going, and then, continually just trip themselves up over doing things that they know they shouldn't be doing. I mean, that's probably the worst part about it is it's not like it was, oh, I didn't know and I did something dumb. Because usually the leagues are relatively lenient in that way, but when you are actively doing stuff that you've already been in trouble for, the leagues don't find that funny at all.
Yeah. I agree. Um, and even the past incidents, to be honest with you, thing what concerned me the most, even more than this week's incident, was the incident when his friends were apparently pointing a scope an opposition player. That has me more concerned than him driving about in
Mhm.
his car, flashing a gun. To be honest with you, I know it was brushed under the carpet, but that was the incident. What would have me more concerned if I was the commissioner?
Mhm. Yeah, well, and that's why I said, there's been these small incidents kind of along the way, and now that you're starting to see all of them together, all of a sudden it's starting to look like a bigger thing, and that's why I think that the league is probably going to levy a pretty healthy fine, and it's going to be the lack of playtime that's a big thing. I really feel like if this was any other player, there's a good chance that you're missing an entire season. And if you were like a low level bench player, you're probably out of the league. So it's a good thing that he is a supreme talent. I think that helps him end up with less play missed, and you know, gives him more chances. But yeah, I mean, if he was a low level guy, he very well could have played his last basketball game if that was the case.
Yeah, I agree with that. So I'm sure we'll talk about this on other weeks if only when an eventual punishment comes. I know Bobby wants to talk about this with me, which I'm sure he can think about on a slightly different level, being a black man. So I'm interested to get his opinion. So, Bo, to slight more happier subject. The playoffs is in full swing.
Mm.
Philadelphia's out, so Doc Rivers for that
Yep.
matter. There's been a lot of coaches out. Is there storyline around the league? What's caught your opinion this week?
Nah, I mean, so the NBA it's funny because Doc Rivers, he gets fired. You knew he was getting fired. But the thing that's weird about the NBA that you don't really get with baseball or football or really any other sport, honestly, is you are more likely to get fired if you get into the playoffs, especially if you get into the second round or the championship and lose, than if you just don't make the playoffs at all, which is absolutely mind-boggling to me. Now, a lot of people had problems with Doc Rivers, but he's been there for 3 years and he's had more regular season wins each year he's been there. So the team has progressively gotten better. Yeah, he's had second round exits, and he has, I think it's 10 game 7 losses, right? But to do that, you have to consistently make it to the playoffs, right? And so I get why they fired him, whatever, but it's funny because you see this across the NBA every year that coaches get into the playoffs, they unceremoniously lose in the first couple rounds, and then they get fired. But guys that just can't seem to get to the playoffs, somehow they keep their job, and that seems very bizarre to me.
It's one of those. So those teams' expectations are higher. So that's a lot of the reason that you're that close. We only see that you're that close. That oh, we didn't do it. I can't get rid of all the players. Someone's got to pay the price.
Yeah.
It's normally the coach with Doc Rivers. He's got an MVP, a former MVP, and Maxi, who I think's up there with the young guards in the league. So I know Philadelphia fans have found him frustrating. Our mutual friend Mick Jenkins has his Twitter handle as Fire Doc Rivers. So the city never fell in love with him, although I think they did like the appointment to begin with, but it just seems like it
I don't think they liked it
never
much,
will.
really.
I don't know. It's one of those. There's going to continue to be this rhetoric around Doc Rivers that he's a good coach,
Mhm.
certainly a very good regular season coach, but can't get the job done until he does get the job done. And even when you do get the job done, if you follow that up and don't do it again, you're going to be out because we've seen at the Bucks how that worked
And
out.
it happened to Doc with the Celtics, right? They run a championship, and then they moved on from him, and he hasn't made it back. He's had numerous trips to the playoffs, but generally a second round exit. I don't think he's actually been in a conference championship until since then. So I mean, I get it, but he has a ring on his resume. He's a perennial, playoff coach. So, I mean, he'll continue to get jobs.
Yeah, he definitely will. And look, I get from a fan's point of view, they've got all this talent on the roster and haven't got the job done. So I do understand it from that point of view because there's coaches would do more with less. So I guess
True.
Doc needs to get some accountability, but at the same time, so do the players, because if you accept that's one of the best rosters, why didn't they get it done? So those players need to take a hard look at
Especially
themselves.
especially that game 7 meltdown. Like that's not the coach. I mean, that happens on the floor, right? Even if you're running a bad scheme as a coach, you don't generally lose that bad.
So
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
such a large fan base. Philadelphia fans ain't low maintenance. That's for sure.
The funniest thing with Philly fans is if they make it to a title game, regardless of sport, you really don't know unless you were in the arena if they won or they lost, because in either scenario, they light their city on fire. It makes no sense to me at all.
I'd pray with that. So, Oh, I asked you a question. If you was Joe and Beeb, now there's going to be a new coach, would you give it another roll of the dice or some? There has been some rumours he may try and agitate for a trade. Do you think that will happen? I think it wouldn't surprise me, but I kind of think he might see who the coach is, and if he likes it, he'll give it one more year. But make it be known their time's running out, or he may look at his options. How do you see it from your point of view?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really going to come down to who they bring in as a coach, right? I mean, because that can absolutely change how a team operates. So, because if you end up with a new coach, you might end up with some extra. They might be able to get some deals done to get some help in there too, player wise. So you would probably wait and see, and then if you don't like what comes in, or if there's an unwillingness to get some help, then I think you look at trying to force a trade at that point. Um, Especially since the NBA is easy enough to force trades. I mean, we've seen it so much over the last decade that if he wants out, he'll get out. So I figure he will probably hang out, see what they get as a coach, and what it is they can do to get some more help around him. And if he likes what he sees, then he'll stay. And if not, then there's plenty of other teams that could use that talent.
I agree. I kind of feel they might go for Nick Nurse, former championship winning coach. I know Bud has been mentioned, of course, former Bucks coach, but I kind of feel that they might go after Nick Nurse, not based on any information. I just kind of think that's a move they might make.
Just for a entertainment value, I hope they go and get D'Antoni, because I know that Philly fans would just lose their mind because they'd just be mad. So I think from an entertainment value, it would be a good move. I don't think they'd do it though.
I think it's going to be interesting. I don't know what's next for Doc Rivers, either one move, what I could kind of see how the Bucks might make sense. Experienced coach, and I think that market would probably suit him better than Philadelphia because it's a bit more. How do I put this rightly?
Mhm.
Try to market. They're not really that demanding, and I think that's the vibe he wants. I could be wrong, but I think that would be a good fit.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with that. I think that could be a good fit. Although, he has 2 years left on his contract. He may take a year off and see what jobs come available, and enjoy getting paid to sit on a beach for a year.
Mhm. And one other thing, if he doesn't want to get in, but maybe keep his hand in, I would not be shocked to see him take. You've seen former coaches take up a consultancy role.
Mhm.
Keep an eye on the Knicks. Him and Tom Thibodeau are fast friends. I could see
Yeah.
him maybe being a consultant, maybe working 2 days a week and being on the beach. That would not surprise me because they are as big of friends as you can get in professional circles.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be surprised if there was an issue with him in the Philly market. I don't know that the New York market would be better.
Um, Trust me, the Knicks fans love him. Several times they've wanted him to be the coach. I can tell you, their own Mr. Dolan loves himself, Doc Rivers. Anytime he comes to town with his team, he rolls out the red carpet.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I mean, it would be interesting. It'd be an interesting fit for sure.
Yeah. I mean, he loved him so much he signed his son. They didn't really use him in the right way, but they certainly liked him when they signed him. So we will see how that plays out. So the final subject I wanted to talk with you about is I can't have you on and not talk Seattle sports at all. So last week when we talked the fixtures, some of them had been leaked, and obviously now we've got the full schedule out.
Yep.
How you feeling about your season now? You know officially what's ahead of you.
Yeah, I mean, you knew who you were playing for quite a while. You just didn't know when, right? So I still think that it's a 10-win season for the Hawks. I feel like they're going to be a significantly better team in areas, but the schedule is enough harder that it probably really only equates to one more win. So I still think that the Niners are going to be the favorite to win the West, which Alec and Gary will love. But I think that the Hawks take them down in the playoffs, so that'll be fun. But but yeah, no, I mean it ultimately I think they did enough things in the offseason and draft to be a better team, but the schedule is enough harder that it's probably just one more win.
I think it's going to be interesting. One of the more interesting divisions to certainly in that conference. So it's been a while since, for a couple of years, Seattle seemed to be credible a little bit, but whereas now, based on last year and what I've seen them do this year, it seems like they've got clearer direction with what they want to do. They might not be like, without question, the lead of that division, but I think they're clearer in, yes, we need to do this if we want to get back to where we want to be. So I think that makes for an interesting storyline this year.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, when you look at what they did in free agency and the draft, I mean, they really targeted their weak points, which is awesome. They really drafted for need instead of just best man on that was available. A lot of times the things they needed happened to be the best man available, but they were really targeting shortcomings, again, in free agency and the draft. So, in free agency, they added a couple of linebackers, a couple of defensive linemen, a safety, a center, and then in the draft they added another center and a guard and a couple more defensive linemen, and they added, obviously a receiver to replace Goodwin when he left to the Browns, and they put a complimentary corner to Woolen. So I mean, they are really designing this to be a run first, good defense type of team. I don't think the defense is still going to be elite by any means. You got a lot of rookies. You got a lot of guys that, kind of have to figure out how it is they're going to play together. So I think they're going to take a massive step forward from the second worst defense in the league to probably being a middle of the road, a 14th, 15th ranked type defense. And as long as the offense doesn't completely fall apart, it's going to be a much better unit just overall.
Yeah, I agree. So before we wrap things up, Alec asked, how do you feel about the early bye week?
I do not like the early bye week. And especially because the rest of our division has a late bye week. So it's unfortunate that it's so early, because if we do get guys that are banged up, they're not going to get any chance to get, some rest to get back on the field. So hopefully it can be one of the rare years that they stay relatively injury free. But I mean, at the end of the day, they haven't had a running back make it through the season since 2014. So it doesn't inspire a ton of confidence. But hopefully it doesn't become an issue. The only thing that I guess is good is they do have a couple of Thursday night games back to back, so they kind of end up with a mini bye on the back side of one of those. So if somebody does get banged up, hopefully they can kind of get right in that 10-day period before that next game. That's about all
I
you can.
agree. And you don't know how you can never judge. You may find the bye comes up handy because
Mhm.
if you get off to a rough start, that's a chance to reset, or maybe there's minor injuries where that comes in handy. So time will tell. As I always say, the game isn't played on paper, so it's hard to judge. I'm a big fan of whatever you get, and you've just got to deal with it, sort of
Pretty
thing.
much.
So it may work your way, it might not. So
Yeah.
I'm excited to see, and just to wrap up, Alex says he doesn't like the Thanksgiving uh, Day game. He's getting flashbacks to last time they played that game.
I was gonna say I loved that game. That game was awesome.
I'm
Yeah,
guessing
no,
Alex didn't as much as
it-
love it as much as you did.
exactly. No, so I actually have that as a win on Seattle's schedule. But that being said, they got to play them twice within 3 weeks, and I figure that the Niners and the Hawks probably split this year. So
I
I think that they beat the Niners on Thanksgiving. Um, some of that's wishful thinking. Don't ruin my Thanksgiving. And then, we probably take the loss 2 weeks later when we play them again.
Great. So before we close up, Scott, how do you think Seattle will be 9-8 team? Does that match your thinking?
Yeah, so I think they're going to be a 10-win team. I think they'll be 10-7. They were 9-8 last year. They are going to be a better team. And outside of a 5-week stretch at the end that is absolutely brutal, there's some definite winnable games. It is a harder schedule overall, so I do think that they only win one more. But I think that they can be a 10-7 team. But I mean, 9-8 is a real possibility. Obviously, there's a couple of games in there that could go either way.
Yeah, I agree with that. So a couple of shout outs before. First of all, I'm joining Alec tomorrow morning at noon Eastern Time, 5 p.m. UK time, talking, um, joining his series where fans join him to talk a big game in their history. And yes, I do get the joke, as Alec reminded me. Is there any games in the Jets history? And I will say this, I haven't gone for the obvious game. Looking forward to joining Alec, helping him along with this venture. The second episode of this, I'm sure at some point he'll have you on board to talk Seattle, and everyone be sure to join us. Alec is a big one that he often supports people's shows, commenting and so forth. So anyone what is around or later on, drop him a comment as a sign of support.
Yeah, no, Alec is always great about jumping in on shows, so definitely appreciate him coming through. And absolutely, we are gonna do some sort of show ahead of hopefully both of those Seattle and Niner weeks, just because I feel like it'll be hilarious banter, and both teams are good. So I mean, really, either one of those games could go either way. So I'm looking forward to both of them, and it's always fun to jump on with other guys. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
So Alec has put in the comment, yes, it is Friday. Yes, I am so tired sometimes I lose track of the day. So it's not tomorrow, it is Friday. So thanks for that, Alec. And also Scott's got Mr. First Down joining him tonight at 8:30 Eastern time. I have to message Scott because Central Time, Mr. First Down's working schedule. So um yeah, everyone be sure to join Scott, Johnny, Mr.
Phone
First
with Dan.
Down.
See, that's messed up, Scott.
Yeah. So Bo, what content have you got coming up for people to look forward to?
All right. So we got, we have Friday morning, got Hawk Talk. We do that every week. And then, so we are going to be having a little bit of break on my content starting next week as I get ready to move back to Seattle. So there's going to be a couple of weeks where I'll probably jump in as a guest in places, but I won't be hosting my own stuff just because we have a little over 2,600 mile drive that's going to take over a week to go from down here in Mexico to Seattle. So we'll have a little bit of a gap in content on my page, but there are some shows that I will probably try and jump into, at the end of the day where I'm back in, a hotel or whatever, and have some Wi-Fi. And so I'll probably try and jump in like on my phone or something, but my shows are going to take a little bit of a break after this week.
Yeah, that's no problem at all. Yeah, Scott, it is not the Bat Fumble game. I don't know. I have fond memories of that, and just a little joke. You're a little bit older than me, so you probably have clearer memories of that than I can, being in the nursing home, as Mr. Nick Bodkins would say. And that wraps everything up, other than to say I'll be back at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, 11 in UK time. Bobby's joining me for our weekly show, so everyone be sure to check it out. And all what remains is to thank everyone for commenting, Alex, Scott, and also Bo, most of all to you for joining me for Fun Sports Talk.
Absolutely. Always great to hang out with you. So I always appreciate you having me on.
No problem at all. Anyone what is watching this, don't forget to subscribe to Not Just Let's Talk Sports on YouTube, but Bo on his Football Talk with Bo channel, and of course, I'm sure he wouldn't be upset with a follow on Twitter. I will tweet out a link to Bo's YouTube channel later today because yes, I do know it's people don't always have the time to go searching, so I will share that to make it easy for everyone. And yeah, thank you to everyone for watching. And until next time, let's talk sport fans. Thanks for watching.
Have a good week, guys.